It's time again for me to talk about why I love a specific movie. I kind of started this series to be sort of an in defense of a certain movie. Like if it's a movie that the audience is kind of mixed about, I like to state my case for that movie. Maybe I started with Forbidden Photos of a Lady Without Suspicion. I don't remember. But lately, it's just turned into something a little more like, here's why I love this beloved movie. You know what I mean? The Strange Vice of Mrs. Wardh from 1971 is no different. This is a largely beloved Giallo movie, directed by Sergio Martino, but I have read some reviews where some people are like, they don't get it, they don't get the hype, or this movie is accused of being more stylish than substantial. A lot of times people see flaws with the story. Since this is my favorite Giallo, I really felt I owed it this kind of video because I haven't made a video speaking specifically on this movie. Now, I think it deserves more of a in-depth, like a deep dive. It deserves a deep dive critical analysis later at some point in time. But for now, in the regular fashion of these videos, I'm just going to be talking about the most superficial reasons why I love this movie. It's a lot of surface level stuff, but I still think these are fun things to point out and talk about in a lighthearted, easy listening kind of way. This is my favorite Giallo. I might be clinging to it for loyalty, sentimental reasons at this point, but I'm still calling it my favorite Giallo. Oh yes, spoilers everywhere, full of spoilers. If you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on Tubi at the time of this recording. So let us begin. Why I love The Strange Vice of Mrs. Wardh. First of all, the cast. We have an all-star Giallo cast. The trifecta, George Hilton, Ivan Rosimov, and Edwige Fenech. And the rest of the cast is cool too. Like the guy who plays Neil, he's cool. I like him. He's got kind of like a cozy face. And then the girl who plays Carol, she's also in Torso. Like these are people we know and love. This is a great cast. This soundtrack, desolate, lonely, hypnotic, haunting. This soundtrack hits different. This is not your typical Giallo soundtrack. It's something else. It has this strange sort of like vocalization to it. It sounds like a monster or something, like some kind of Lovecraftian monster. It's a terrifying, isolating soundtrack that is so good. The sleaze in this movie. This is endearing, lovable sleaze. I'm thinking about the dress tear-off session at the party near the beginning of the movie. We get some love scenes. I'll go into that more later. But it's all really well incorporated into the movie without being overpowering or without seeming gratuitous or out of place. I think this is sleaze well done. Okay, maybe I should have talked about this first, but the freaking apartment. What? This apartment is iconic. This is the epitome of Giallo settings. You may also recognize this apartment from appearing in The Red Queen Kills 7 Times, I think it was. This was filmed at Casa Papanice. Was that right? I don't know. I don't think it's Papa Nice. I want to take a moment and shout out the Hypnotic Crescendos blog, who did an entire piece on this apartment. So I will link that below. This apartment is straight up goals. I would take this, I would move in 100% as it is. I could live out the rest of my life in those blue and green walls. I just love the movement, the round shapes, and so much movement in the apartment, and those just overpowering colors. Just phenomenal. The next thing I want to mention that I love in this movie is Julie's blue outfit that she wears to that party. It's like I think it's a suit, like it's a two-piece suit. It is exquisite. That is one of my favorite Giallo fashion moments, Probably the best Giallo fashion moment in that movie in particular, with the contender being George Hilton's aviator sunglasses. Okay, the next thing I want to talk about that I love about this movie is, forgive my terminology, I'm not sure what the best terminology would be here, but the blood and pain fetish, the sort of sadomasochism, is that too extreme of a term here, of Julie. Julie's fetish, her strange vice. I am sorry, but Edwige and Even are hot together. Their like love scenes are steamy. That is art. the roughness, the shattered glass, the tearing of the clothes, the cutting. It's so effective. It's somehow passionate. I don't know. The more I watch this movie, the more and more I enjoy those scenes. I really liked that Julie had this side to her. I wish they had explored it a little bit more, because the title would sort of lead you to believe it would be more of a central focus to the film, but it's not exactly. It's more like the backstory, but it's not about the active story that's going on in the movie. The title had me thinking that she'd be a little more like perverted or something, or there'd be an active part of her daily life. But regardless, I like that she still has that deep dark secret just buried down in there off to the side. The next thing I love about this movie is just the wealth and grandeur, at the risk of sounding repetitive, because this is what I say in every one of these videos, but I love how Julie's so well-to-do. I love that, you know, someone carries her bags up for her. She has a driver. She doesn't have to lift a finger, and I think there's something so just, I guess I'm living vicariously through that. I don't know. But I also love the grand interiors. I love that they're able to have these beautiful clothes and this beautiful environment around them. It's aesthetically pleasing. Next, I want to mention the cinematography again, because I mention it like in every Giallo, but this does have really cool shots and really cool work with light and shadow. It's part of what makes this movie so stylish. It's even hypnotic at times. Okay, these are not in order of any kind, but the next thing I love about this movie is Jean. I can't speak French. Jean. Oh, Jean. Evan's character. He is so menacing, so scary, but so like enticing at the same time, like kind of charming and attractive, even though he clearly looks like a maniac. That's why I just love that actor. But I get the appeal. I think I get what Julie struggles with here. It's like trying to quit a dangerous drug. Although she's over him by the time we're in the movie, but I think he's still presented to us as the audience as something enticing. Another thing I wanted to mention in this movie is the Maniac. We do have a Maniac, even though this is an atypical Giallo where it's not really a whodunit, like, where it doesn't focus on the killer going around and killing people, but we do have a Maniac. He was just a convenience for the larger plot of the film, but he does give us some classic kills, throat slashing, blood splatters, and the like, which gives it a nice classic Giallo flavor, of course. The next thing that deserves some love is Julie Wardh herself. I've said this in other videos, but Julie radiates this intense likability. You empathize with her from the start, even though when you look at this objectively, she's kind of a dishonest person. Like, she's running around. She's being unfaithful, but she's doing it so sweetly. That, and she is being tricked into doing it. So we can't really fault her. Edwige just makes this movie. I wonder, would I love it this much if she wasn't the star? I haven't asked myself that till just now. It doesn't matter, because she is the star, and she's an angel, and she makes this movie what it is. God bless her. Next, I want to give a shout out to the parking deck scene. That is classical Giallo right there. That is excellent. I love that she doesn't know where he's coming from. where he's watching from. And the whole thing of like, doesn't a car try to run her over? Ever since I started watching Jolly, I feel like I've seen so many people get run over by a car in the movies. And I just think American movies don't really do that. But in all these Italian movies, people are running each other over or trying to run each other over constantly. That now I'm expecting it, because for the first several times, it surprised the shit out of me. But now I'm like, I bet they're gonna get run over. Anyway, so it has a nice like car scare, and then, I don't know, just every woman knows what it's like to be in a parking deck at night, okay? But I think this did a really great job at just making it feel like true horror. Speaking of scenes, I also want to shout out the boat scene. I love a good seaside Giallo moment. I love those blue waters and swimsuits and just laying out in the sun and just frolicking. So we had a nice little frolic right there with Edwige and George. And next is the desert showdown scene. Is this like the pinnacle cool moment of this movie? We have Even and George out there with their sunglasses and their shirts half unbuttoned and their bell-bottom pants, just staring each other down. It is hot. It's awesome. Plus, it's cool. It's a cool moment for the first time viewer, because you're like, how do these two know each other? How do they know each other? Moving on, we gotta talk about the swerving and laughing scene. That is too funny, where Neil and George, they're just celebrating their victory, and they're driving down the road and going ha 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 and swerving. It's hilarious. I remember Zach was watching that with me at that point, and he was like, what are they doing? This is weird. And then from there, we get the final reveal, which is so cool. So it was really interesting that all three men were conspiring against Julie together. But I love that Julie survived and somehow agreed to work with the cops and prank them by walking along the side of the road like a freaking ghost, like an urban legend or something, like Jason Voorhees climbing out of the lake. It's just, it's real. It feels like a real horror movie moment here as well. I love it. Julie kicks ass, and the look on her face during this is like, I can't believe you did this to me, but at the same time it's like, you are gonna pay for what you did. And the fact that like Neil and George pass by her, but then they just drive backwards all the way back to see her. I feel like that's this moment of desperation. Like they know it's the end of the line. They aren't worried about turning around like they should. They just risk it all and just drive backwards to back up the road. It's because I think they know it's all over. So there's my list of things I love about this movie. But I did want to take a minute for some speculation with y'all. I know this deserves its own video later, but there is something that I wanted to explore with you now. I want to talk about Julie and Jean. Jean. Julie and Jean. So most synopses of this movie will say something to the effect of Julie has escaped her abusive ex. I think that's oversimplifying the situation, so I kind of wanted to explore a little bit about what's really happened and happening between the two of them. I know I'm treading into like sensitive territory here, but I want to talk about this. And since I've begun watching this movie several times, my opinion has kind of shifted. Like my perception of their situation has changed. So, okay, I think Julie has these sexual desires and Jean has the same desires. So somehow they met up and started, consensually participating in this experimental sexual behavior. I don't think they were like boyfriend-girlfriend, but I think they were mutually benefiting, okay? But I think eventually two things happened, or maybe three things happened. First, I think Julie maybe she's always had this desire, and I feel like she eventually, she slipped in with Jean and just started really indulging in it. But I think at the core of it, she was ashamed and maybe guilty for her vice. So that's the first thing that I think happened. Second thing I think happened is she was ready to settle down. She was ready to have a respectable life and a respectable lifestyle. So she wanted to settle down with a fancy guy like Neil. And perhaps there is a third thing that happened. Perhaps she was afraid of Jean. I mean, he's not a good guy, and we'll get into that. But I think that Julie's choice to end things with Jean, the impression that I get is that she's guilty. She feels ashamed and guilty for her own vice, and she just wanted to live a normal life. I think those are the driving factors for her to leave Jean, and not because he was abusive. But he is abusive. At the very least, Jean is abusive because he is stalking, harassing, and intimidating her after she has left him. So clearly he has control issues and is abusive. But yeah, to reiterate, I don't think the abuse is why she left him. I think she left him because of what she was feeling inside, which of course had to do with perception, how she was being perceived. She wanted to be normal. It was good that she left him though, because we can see he's a dangerous man. But yeah, that's kind of where I am right now in understanding or interpreting Julie and Jean. Let me know what your thoughts are on the two of them, and like your thoughts on her vice, you know, which we didn't get to explore. What are your like theories or ideas or understandings of Julie and her strange vice? Okay, I'm gonna wrap it up now. I love this movie. It brings a lot of comfort. It's a comfy movie. It's beautiful, it's haunting, it's stylish. It's just a banger. Admittedly, the story is a bit far-fetched. The whole like 3 men coming together to conspire against her, and their plan dovetails so nicely with this completely unrelated maniac that's killing women in the same town. I know, it's a lot. But just don't ask too many questions, and you'll have a great time with this movie. Let me know your thoughts on any aspect of the movie. Even if you didn't like it, I welcome you. You're still welcome here. I respect you. And I hope you enjoyed. I think making movie videos is the most rewarding for me right now, so I appreciate you being here. Ciao for now.